ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene and you're listening to our ASEAN Daily where we bring you news from this region of Southeast Asia. First up, we go global and discuss what's happening outside of Southeast Asia. Germany reconsiders military intervention in the wake of Paris attacks. The Paris attacks have jolted Germany into considering greater military involvement in the fight against Islamic State despite public opposition to abandoning its largely pacifist foreign policy. The voices raising the prospect of military intervention by the European Union's biggest country came largely from Chancellor Angela Merkel, a conservative group in Parliament. Lawmaker Henning Otter, a defense policy specialist, said the government should deploy all available means to fight terrorism and should study how the military can join the effort. Junger Hart, the party's parliamentary expert on foreign policy issues, said Germany should participate in military operations against Islamic State if carried out by a broader coalition. And according to him, that if there is a new joint effort under the umbrella of the United Nations that includes both Russia and the Western world, Germany should make a substantial contribution to this international coalition, and not just in the diplomatic and economic spheres, but also in the military spheres. Moving on to news about ASEAN, the recent Prime Minister Modi's visit to Southeast Asia has created bright spots. In fact, Modi talked up two global bright spots during the 3-day visit to Malaysia for a round of summits. Prime Minister Narendra Modi described India and Association of Southeast Asian Nations as two bright spots of optimism in a world troubled by economic uncertainty, political turmoil, and security threats. Modi said Southeast Asia was a vital neighbor on land and sea with which India has excellent relations. He described Malaysia as one of India's strongest partners and closest friends in the region. In Kuala Lumpur, Modi talked of the changes he wanted to bring to Indian politics. According to him, that the Indians are making government transparency and accountability. They are also eliminating corruptions at all levels. They are making governance driven by policies and systems, not by the discretion of individuals. India-ASEAN trade stood at about $76.5 billion for the years ending in March. Much of the potential for economic partnership remains untapped, he said during the 13th ASEAN-India summit on Saturday. His confidence that the trade and investment from India will expand the economies and grow the economies of Southeast Asia and India. At the East Asia Summit, Modi called for a new global resolve and strategy to combat terrorism without any political favor. No country should use or support terrorism, he said a week after coordinated terrorist attacks in Paris that claimed 130 lives. On Monday, his last day in Malaysia, Modi paid a call on his Malaysian counterpart, Prime Minister Najib Razak, to discuss ways to deepen bilateral ties. India is today the fastest growing major economy in the world, and they are running at 7.5% per year, but will grow even faster in the coming years. This is the time where the rest of the world, including parts of the region, is experiencing a slowdown. Both the World Bank and Modi's Investors Service have predicted higher than 7.5% annual growth for India in the years to come. We will take a short break. When we return, we'll discuss further on the political side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene. You're back with me again on the ASEAN Daily. So on the political side of Southeast Asia, we move on to Myanmar. Myanmar's persecuted Rohingya see glimmer of hope in Suu Kyi's victory. What we are seeing right now is Nobagun would like to have voted for Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy party, but like the majority of Myanmar's persecuted Rohingya Muslim minority, they took no part in the historic election of the Nobel laureate won by a landslide. Stripped of their right to cast ballots by the current government, many Rohingya now hope that with the NLD able to rule largely on its own, a Suu Kyi-led government will work to restore their lives and many of the rights that they have lost. She hoped that things will get a little bit better, according to this 28-year-old mother of 5 whose village was destroyed during violence between Buddhists and Muslims that swept through Myanmar's western Rakhine state in 2012. Dealing with the Rohingya will be one of the most controversial and unavoidable of a long list of issues Suu Kyi will inherit from the current government. Feted by many of the Western for her role as champion of Myanmar's pro-democracy movement during the long years of military rule, she has been criticized overseas and by some in Myanmar for saying little about the abuses faced by the group of Rohingya. When an NLD government takes power in March, she will come under mounting international pressure to take a definitive stance in their defense. But speaking out for the Rohingya would carry a political cost at home. The group is widely disliked in Myanmar, where they are seen as illegal immigrants from Bangladesh, including by some in Suu Kyi's party. She risks hemorrhaging support by taking up the cause for the beleaguered minority. On another hand, in the UN, by Secretary General Ban Ki-moon during his one-day visit in Malaysia at the Southeast Asian Nations Summit in Kuala Lumpur, he has asked Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull to rethink the country's border security policy. Mr. Ban Ki-moon voiced his concerns about Operation Sovereign Borders on the sidelines in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit. Australia sends asylum seekers to offshore detention centers and turns away boats carrying them. A spokesperson for Mr. Turnbull declined to comment, but according to a UN statement, Mr. Ban Ki-moon and Mr. Turnbull discussed several topics, including climate change and Syria. He addressed the topic of refugee using very direct language, expressing concern and asking that Mr. Turnbull reconsider the policy. Noting Australia's long-standing commitment for refugee resettlement, the Secretary General appealed to the Prime Minister to share responsibilities. On the other hand, we move on to Obama and the US. As we all know that Obama recently visited Malaysia and had a press conference, and it seems like the US is really strong in terms of its stance towards ISIS. In fact, Obama made this remark about ISIS: "They are a bunch of killers with good social media." President Barack Obama urged the public to not elevate the Islamic State group, also known as ISIS or ISIL, as more powerful than it is in reality. They are a bunch of killers with good social media. Speaking at a press conference in Kuala Lumpur, Obama said the media in particular should maintain right perspective on the danger that the Islamic State and other terrorist groups pose to the country. How we report on this has to maintain perspective and not empower in any way this terrorist organization or elevate them in a way that would make it easier for them to recruit or make them stronger. Obama specifically called out news outlets that label the ringleader in the recent terror attack in Paris as mastermind. He wants to be very clear about this. He said, "I am not afraid that ISIL will beat us because of their operations. When I see a headline that says this individual who designed this plot in Paris is a mastermind, he is not a mastermind." He also added that he found a few other vicious people got hands on some very conventional weapons and said, sadly, it turns out that if you are willing to die, you can kill a lot of people. The president nevertheless stressed that the US has taken the Islamic State's threats seriously and that the jihadist group will eventually be defeated. Destroying ISIL is not only a realistic goal, they are going to get it done, he said earlier in his press conference, and they are going to pursue it with every aspect of American power and with all of the coalition partners that the US assemble is going to get done. That's what the US President Barack Obama reaffirmed during the press conference in Kuala Lumpur. Moving on, we will take a short break. When we return, we'll go to the economic side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene. Welcome back to our ASEAN Daily. So on the economic side of Southeast Asia, we would like to highlight the recent signing and establishment of the Regional Economic Community. 10 Southeast Asian nations have declared the establishment of an economic community set to compete with powerhouse neighbors India and China. The agreements will remove tariff barriers and visa restrictions. The leaders of the 10 countries declared on Sunday officially establishing the AEC due to become a legal entity on December 31st. In practice, they have virtually eliminated tariff barriers between all the Southeast Asian countries, as being expressed by Malaysia Prime Minister Najib Razak, whose country is hosting the 27th ASEAN Summit. Now they have assured freer movement and removal of barriers that hinder growth and investment. The move aims to increase cooperation and coordination on microeconomics and financial policy in the region. While many of the economic community measures are already in place, including the removal of tariff barriers and visa restrictions, the agreement falls short on operating key sectors such as agriculture and steel, which fall under government protections. The AEC is arguably the most ambitious economic integration program in the development world, but implementation of the AEC is increasingly uphill. According to Michael Plumet, professor of international economics at Johns Hopkins University's Europe Center, much remains to be done and the region faces many challenges in finishing. The AEC is a process, according to the professor. The ASEAN comprises one pillar on the ASEAN community alongside socio-cultural and political security. On another hand, we see China reaffirms interest in Malaysia-Singapore rail project. This is according to a news that was expressed by Prime Minister Najib Razak. A short video clip presentation showing the commitment of the father of the late Tun Abdul Razak Hussein towards ASEAN and New Zealand relations left Malaysia Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Razak deeply touched at the ASEAN-New Zealand 40th anniversary commemorative summit here on Sunday. Malaysia and China today signed 8 government-to-government memorandum of understanding to improve relationship in trade, culture and administration. Malaysia is taking note on China's interest to participate in the high-speed rail project between Kuala Lumpur and Singapore, said Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Razak. The financial services are concerned in addition to the Bank of China and Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. The China construction bank offering financial facilities for major infrastructure projects, which will open a branch in Malaysia. According to the joint statement, Malaysia and China had agreed to work together to support intellectual property rights related marketplace activity, to promote the exchange of information and cross-fertilization of ideas, as well as to facilitate IP rights transactions between IP owners and potential partners. Bilateral trade topped $102 billion past year, despite the sluggish global economy. China is also interested in port development projects along the Straits of Malacca. On another news related to China and ASEAN, recently they signed an upgraded free trade agreement. The Association of Southeast Asia and China concluded an upgraded free trade pact that is expected to generate two-way trade of $1,000 billion and investment of $150 billion by 2020. The upgrading of the ASEAN-China Free Trade Agreement, or short for ACFTA or EFTA, aims to streamline and enhance economic cooperation in line with the changes in trade and economic landscape between ASEAN and China. This was being expressed by the Malaysia's Ministry of International Trade and Industry. Bilateral trade volume surged to around $480 billion in 2014, from around $50 billion in 2004, when the AFTA to effect. The upgraded agreement includes amendments to the agreement on trade in goods, services, investment, economic and technical cooperation. China is the top trading partner of almost every ASEAN country. The upgraded AFTA was signed during the 27th ASEAN Summit and related summits held in Kuala Lumpur. And leaders during the event also signed a document declaring the formal establishment of the ASEAN community, which aims to create a community that is politically cohesive, economically integrated, and socially responsible. We will take a short break. When we return, we will discuss on the arts and culture side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene. You are back with me again on our ASEAN Daily, where we bring you news from Southeast Asia. On the arts and culture side, we have the Prime Minister's wife of Malaysia, Datin Sri Rosmah Mansor, hosted the ASEAN Food Fiesta Spouse Program that featured a slew of rice-based cuisine from all over the region. Theme Rice That Binds Us, Bring ASEAN Closer. The event was held in conjunction with the 27th ASEAN Summit, was attended by spouses of ASEAN leaders as well as those from Japan and China. Rosmah said the fiesta was part of the tapestry of ASEAN Spouse Program, which was aimed at showcasing the diversity of ASEAN main staple food, which is rice, and vibrant culture, exploring the views in addressing rural women's issue. While different countries across the region have distinct way of preparing rice, it is also the common thing that binds the people of ASEAN. It is aptly used as a metaphor for reinforcing unity among us, which is significant as we embrace ASEAN community and the vision of people-centeredness. She, in fact, said that rice is one of the core staple that really binds Southeast Asia together and what makes us Southeast Asian. The event was jointly organized by the Women, Family and Community Development Ministry, Prime Minister's Department and Wisma Putra. It showcased Malaysia's famous lemang, ketupat palas, nasi kerabu, laksa and other traditional delicacy during the fiesta. It was also attended by consort Queen Consort of Brunei Rajasri Pangeran Anak Hajah Saleha, First Lady Iriana Joko Widodo of Indonesia, Cheng Hong from China, Lee Hong Ching of Singapore, Aki Abe from Japan, and Associate Professor Narapon Chan Ocha, among others. The guests were entertained by ASEAN cultural performances by the 10-member country group. Malaysia was represented by Permata Seni and the Department of Culture and Arts. And we are towards the end of our show. Thanks for listening to Durian ASEAN. Please subscribe to us at durianasian.com, and you can always catch us on our social media at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course our podcast on YouTube. You can also listen to us on the go by downloading the Durian ASEAN app at your mobile app store. Thanks for listening and happy Tuesday.